To make sugar-free sugar cookies, I used 2 cups of almond flour, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. Also, a quarter cup of monk fruit sweetener, and the sweetener I used is in an affiliate link in the bottom, which means I get a small commission if you purchase through that link. Also, a quarter cup of unsalted butter, a link to that below. Next, an egg, organic or inorganic, doesn't matter. And finally, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Before handling the ingredients, turn on your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then add all of the dry ingredients together in a bowl. So that means the almond flour, baking soda, salt, and sweetener, and whisk it all together till everything is homogeneous. And if you have little hands like I did, you can use those little hands to do this as well. Now in a separate bowl from the dry ingredients, add all the wet ingredients together. So that means the egg, the melted butter, and the vanilla extract. And whisk all of those together and keep them separate. Keep them in, that same bowl. Whisk them all together till everything is smooth. Something like what you see on the screen right now. Pretty smooth, I think. Then take those wet ingredients and pour it into the dry ingredients and whisk all of that together to make your cookie dough. In the beginning, it'll probably look like progress is very dubious. It'll seem like nothing is really properly getting mixed, but I promise if you keep on mixing, it's going to look like what you see on the screen now, actual dough, and you can literally stamp imprints into it. Now, once your dough is like that, take a little piece off and make sure it isn't too sticky. If it is, you can put it in the fridge for, about 15 minutes just to harden it a little bit. Now, with your dough mixture, roll them into little balls, about a tablespoon in volume for each ball. It could be a little larger, it could be a little smaller. And then set them on parchment paper on a baking pan. Make sure there's enough space in between them just in case it gets runny. I doubt it. It's not going to get that runny really. But just give enough space between them, about 2 inches of space. Then use an object like a cup or like my 1 cup measuring cup, something with a flat end in order to flatten each of your dough balls. You can use your palm too if you don't mind getting your hands a little dirty, but otherwise just use something flat. Now, if you're like us, you have some cookie molds, and that is exactly what we used. We had some Christmas cookie molds, so I took the liberty of combining some of the dough balls to make enough of a flat dough space for cookie cutters, and we ended up making a Christmas tree, a snowflake, and Santa Claus. Even though it's not Christmas time, still, you might as well use it. And with the extra dough that we had, I let my son make whatever it was that he wanted, and he chose a cat. Therefore, showing you can actually shape your cookies in whatever shape you want. Just make sure there's enough space in between them so they can bake evenly and that they aren't too large either. Now, when you're done shaping the cookies, put them in the oven and bake for 10 minutes and check at 10 minutes to make sure that they're just brown around the edges. That's really all you need. And if it is, you can turn off the oven and take the cookies out. Really, almond flour made cookies are the kind of cookies that tend to dry out pretty quickly in the oven, so you really don't want to over bake them. That's important. Now, when your cookies are done, set them on the counter to cool off for 5 minutes. And when I came back to my cookies, I checked on them and they browned pretty nicely. They browned nice underneath. Nothing was burnt. The texture wasn't soft like a typical soft chocolate chip cookie, for example, or, those soft baked cookies that you might see in the store. It is almond flour, which means it's just going to be dense. It's kind of hard to achieve that kind of softness. But there was a springiness. I think that's the best way to describe it. Kind of like a sponge, It's both dense and soft at the same time. That's what the cookies are like. And when I broke off a piece from the cookie, I could tell it's definitely more soft than hard. It didn't crumble or produce crumbs like a typical hard cookie would. And this shot hopefully shows that springiness I was talking about. I could press on the cookie and the shape would rebound very much like a sponge would. So that is the texture of the sugar cookie. Now, as for the flavor, I think the flour that we used was very heavy on the almond. So it tastes like an almond cookie, but there's no sugar in it. So it was a pretty nice cookie for all intents and purposes. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video and will try this recipe for yourself.